रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे बाप लगते हैं। नाम है शहंशाह। इसमें लेओवर होता रहेगा शॉर्ट्स का, तो ये वाला वापस सामने खड़ा होकर बोल सकता हूँ। हार के जीतने वाले को ही बाजीगर कहते हैं। If you're out in the market looking for a B-segment hatchbacks, there are good chances that the Maruti Suzuki Swift would be pretty much on top of your list. And well, the Swift has dominated its segment for a long time, and no car throughout its life cycle has come close to challenging its authority. In fact, it has dominated its segment in such a way that the Swift can pretty much tell every other car in its segment, रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे बाप लगते हैं। नाम है शहंशाह. That applies to each and every car in the segment. But now the Swift has a new challenger, and that's the Hyundai Grand i10 Nios. Now Hyundai has put in everything it had in its arsenal to take on the Swift. So, is this car capable of dethroning the king? That's exactly what we'll find out over the next few minutes. Now for the test today, the cars that we have with us here today, well, both of them are equipped with AMT gearboxes, and the Nios is the top variant that you can buy with an AMT. The Swift, on the other hand, is one variant below the top. So there is one more variant that you can buy with the AMT, which is higher than this. Now to start off, let's talk about the design first.
Subscribe and click the bell icon for the latest updates from Express Drives.
The Swift clearly is the sportier car to look at. It also is the longer and the wider car than the Grand i10 Nios. Put them alongside each other and it's easy to decipher that the Swift is a much larger car. Now, if you look at the Swift from the front, again, yes, it's got this sporty black grille. So it's got the sporty character. It's got no chrome, which goes along well with the fact that it is a car positioned as a sporty car. So the overall front end is quite sharp, and the new Swift again looks a lot better than the older one because it's just matured well. It looks a little more premium. It's got larger alloy wheels compared to the Nios, so it's one size more. It's got wider rubber. Again, that gives the side profile of the Swift a little more dynamism. It just looks a little more energetic. The Grand i10 Nios, on the other hand, is a very decent looking, it's more like a sophisticated car. While this is a sporty one, this is a more sophisticated car. It exudes more of practicality, and pretty much that's the kind of buyer the Nios is targeted at. So you can see it's got a lot of curves, it's got a sharp front end, and the DRL here, well, it's on the front grille, whereas in the Swift, if you opt for the top variant, you will have a much more dramatic LED DRL here, which looks fantastic, by the way. And on the side, again, in terms of the alloy wheel design too, it's the Swift that takes better points, because although this one's finished in grey, the design of the alloy wheels on the Swift is much better. So now that we're done with the exterior, it's time to discuss the cabin. Now, this is the area where the Grand i10 Nios really gains back an advantage. Whatever it lost out to in terms of exterior, it makes up for that here. Now the dashboard has got different contrasting colors, it really looks good, and this honeycomb effect given here really sets it apart from anything else. It's got a very good touch feel to it, so the material quality again is quite impressive. Even the black top part here, again, the plastic quality is good, the build quality is good, so you will find a lot of consistency in terms of panel gaps, so that again helps the cabin gain a very premium positioning. The other centerpiece of attraction is, of course, this new center console design and the 8-inch color touch infotainment screen. Now the system comes loaded with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, so of course that's a good thing. The user interface is quite simple, and the touch response again is nice. Visibility under direct sunlight is again Again, it's quite impressive. It also comes with an Archimist sound system, so the audio system again is quite nice. You can enjoy your music library quite well, and the music system will keep you happy. The circular vents again here look very nice, a bit of a premium brush to the overall theme. Now, as I told you, this is the top version that you can buy with the AMT. So here you just have a pad where you can keep your phone or your wallet, and you get two USB points here. One supports fast charging, one is your normal output. However, if you opt for the Asta version, which is the top version in the Grand i10 Nios lineup, you do get a wireless charging pad, which is not available as an option on the Swift on any of the variants. So that is an edge that the Grand i10 Nios has, depending on the variant you select. The other good thing about the Grand i10 Nios is that it gets you a cooled glove box. If you talk about the seats, the Nios has got good seats. The size is nice, so even if you have a large frame, you will find yourself comfortable in the seat. The cushioning is good and the side support is quite nice. The only slight downside is that the Nios comes with fixed headrests all around, and at times, depending on the size of your body, it can be a bit hard to find that perfectly comfortable position. You can get it here, but this does not help you get the perfect position for every kind of driver. But beyond that, again, there's a lot of space in the doors. You can easily place water bottles and you'll still be left with space for a lot small knickknacks. Now, talking about the instrument cluster inside the Grand i10 Nios, well, it's a combination of digital and analog. Gives you all the information. The readouts are easy and visible, so no problems there. But in terms of design, well, it doesn't really look as premium as the rest of the cabin is. There it looks that probably at some point of time Hyundai thought to cut some cost here. So yes, you get all the information, but it just doesn't look exciting. Now, like I told you earlier that the Swift is longer and wider than the Grand i10 Nios, so it is natural for you to assume that probably the Nios is the one that will be behind in terms of space. But that is not the case, because both the cars have exactly the same wheelbase, but somehow Hyundai engineers have been able to get a little more smart integration of space, and as a result of that, in the Grand i10 Nios you get a little more legroom compared to the Swift. Also, in terms of rear seat comfort, the Grand i10 Nios is a tad better than the Swift. And in terms of headroom, well, again, both cars are similarly spec'd. You can see here in the Grand i10 Nios, I have no problems in terms of headroom, 5 feet 8 inches. So if you are someone slightly taller, you'll not have a problem. But of course, yes, if you're someone well over 6 feet, headroom can be a bit of a bother here. Now, the seat here, again, it's a very nice seat in terms of cushioning. The cushioning is good. The rear backrest angle is good, but again, the headrests are fixed, and that can be a bit of a bother, especially if you're going to be here on long journeys. Well, the fixed headrest might not suit everyone. But yes, in terms of under thigh support, again, the seat is good, and you do have space for placing bottles. But one area where the Grand i10 Nios has a big edge over the Swift is the fact that it comes with rear AC vents. Now, that is not offered on the Swift, even on the top variant. So now we're inside the cabin of the Maruti Suzuki Swift, and well, as you can see, it's a very different cabin from the Grand i10 Nios. Now, if you look at the dashboard, well, of course, it's an all black dashboard, goes well with the sporty theme of the car, and to break the monotony, you have this plastic insert which is in a metal finish. You've got circular air vents on top of the center console. On the sides, they're pretty regular ones, so not as good looking as you get them in the Nios. Now, the area where the Swift loses out big time to the Grand i10 Nios, variant to variant, spec to spec compare here, well, that is the infotainment system. Now, while you get an 8-inch touchscreen right back there in the Nios, you get a standard double-din audio system here. So no touchscreen means no fancy stuff, no Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and no reverse camera either. Well, of course, if you go in for the top variant, you will get a touchscreen in the Swift as well with Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and the reverse camera, all the bells and whistle. But in this variant, which are similarly priced, you lose out on that. In terms of the overall center console design, again, it's got circular controls, sporty, looks good, lot of space here for placing your wallet, your phone, everything. What you have here is a USB and an aux point, and you have a 120 12 volt outlet. Again, here if you look at the instrument cluster, well, this is where the Swift again scores top marks. It's got a dual pod instrument cluster here with a digital screen in the center, and it looks really nice. It's good to look at, easy to get information from. Beyond that, the steering wheel again here is more sporty. It's got a flat bottom, so it's a sportier steering wheel, and it's got the regular audio and telephone controls, so not much of a difference in both cars there. In terms of space, well, there's not much of a difference between both cars. Both give you door pockets where you can easily put in a liter water bottle, and you'll still be left with space for more. Little bit more space in the Swift actually, a little bit more space here as well in the Swift. The seats here in the Swift, well, they're again nice. The cushioning is nice. They're slightly firmer than that on the Grand i10 Nios. So now we're in the rear seat of the Maruti Suzuki Swift, and well, like I told you earlier, similar wheelbase for both the cars, so not much of a difference in terms of space. As you can see, there's a lot of leg room to spare here, and again I have space to slide my feet under the driver's seat. Headroom again, no problem, and it's the same story like I said for Grand i10 Nios. If you're someone of my height, 5 feet 8 inches, even slightly taller, 5 feet 10 inches, you will not have any problem. 6 feet plus, well, both the cars, the headroom could be a bit of a bother. Now in terms of seat, well, the seat again here is nice, the cushioning is good. The big difference, however, between both the cars is that the Swift is wider than the Grand i10 Nios, and that means that if you have to place 3 passengers at the rear seat, the 3 of them will find themselves more comfortable in the Swift compared to the Grand i10 Nios. The other big advantage in the rear seat of the Swift is the fact that it comes with adjustable headrests, so irrespective of your height, you will be able to find a more comfortable seating position in this seat than the Grand i10 Nios. But in terms of the bench, well, as I told you, the cushioning and everything is fine, it's wider, but the under thigh support, well, the under thigh support could have been better on the Swift. The Grand i10 Nios gives you better under thigh support at the rear seat, and it's significantly better than that on the Swift. So now let's talk about the driving performance of both these cars, and we'll start with the Swift, which is the sportier of the both. Now in terms of engine, what you get here is a 1.2 liter petrol engine. It's a naturally aspirated engine, and it gives you an output of about 83 PS and 113 Newton meters of torque. Now in terms of power output, again, like the size, especially the wheelbase, you'll be quite amazed how similarly these cars are spec'd. There is hardly any difference between the figures of these cars, but how they deliver this power is entirely different. Now in the Swift, the power is delivered in a much more aggressive manner. It is also a much sportier car. Now while the engine is quite sporty in its nature, its performance gets a little bit blunted by the AMT. Now in terms of AMT integration, I've said it in the past, Maruti Suzuki is one of the best when it comes to AMT calibrations in India, and you can see that in the Swift as well. So, well, of course, as you would expect in AMT, the head nods are pronounced. You can feel the lag, and at times it leaves you wanting for more power, but if you compare it to the other AMTs, it's still a lot better. And hence, you will not find yourself stuck when it comes to executing an overtaking maneuver as such. Of course, you do have the option of putting it into manual, and then you can extract more power out of the engine. The engine itself is quite a refined unit. In fact, it is slightly more refined than that on the Grand i10 Nios. And in terms of overall drivability, well, there's not much to choose from. but the automatic gearbox on the Nios works slightly better than that on the Swift. We'll discuss more that when we're driving the Nios. Well, fuel efficiency, surprisingly, the Grand i10 Nios is slightly better in terms of real-world fuel efficiency when you compare it to the Swift. And when I was driving the Swift earlier in the city, I was getting an average fuel efficiency of about 14.2 kilometers to a liter on the same run, that is on the same distance and on the same route. The Grand i10 Nios has been giving me about 15.6 kilometers to a liter, so a slight bonus there. So now let's talk about the ride and handling about both of these cars. If you talk about road manners, high speed handling, well, the Swift won't give you much reasons to complain. It does take corners happily. Even in terms of straight line stability at highway speeds, you won't have an issue. And braking, well, both cars come with ABS EBD, but the Swift, in terms of pedal feedback, you get more feedback from the pedal on the Swift vis-a-vis the Grand i10 Nios. Nonetheless, if you talk about ride quality, bad roads, potholes, well, all of that are dealt with in an impressive manner by the Swift. Not much of it filters through into the cabin, but at slow speeds, if you're going over really bad surfaces, a bit of it can creep through inside the cabin. And well, that's where the Swift stands. How does the Grand i10 Nios stack up? Well, let's head into the car and find out. So now we're in the Grand i10 Nios, and like I told you earlier while driving the Swift, in terms of petrol engine, well, they are pretty much identical. Nothing much to differentiate in terms of power or torque figures. But like I said earlier while driving the Swift, the way how these cars deliver their power is very different. While the Swift is more aggressive and sporty, this one feels a little more gentler. It's got a more linear power delivery, and of course coupled up with the AMT, well, this comes across as a very linear engine. There's not much of a sportiness that you can find from the performance here. But yes, like I said earlier, acceleration, there's not much of a difference. So outright 0 to 100 numbers, you'll not find much of a gap. But yes, the way the power builds up is very different. The engine, it's a refined unit, not much of thing to complain in that area. But the Swift engine, the Swift motor just feels a little more refined than this one in the Grand i10 Nios. And well, as far as the AMT is concerned, Hyundai definitely had the Swift in its mind while developing the Grand i10 Nios, and Hyundai worked on their AMT themselves instead of sourcing it from a supplier. And that effort shows, because the AMT here works a lot better than that on the Swift. So while getting off the line can be a bit of a jerky affair in the Grand i10, once you get going past second gear, the gearbox performs very well. Now what I mean here when I say that is that the gap in the lag between the gear shifts, that is the head nods in the Grand i10, are less pronounced. So the gearbox, the transition from one gear to the another is much smoother here in the Grand i10 Nios than that of the Swift. As far as ride and handling is concerned, well, in terms of ride quality, the Grand i10 Nios is similar to what you get on the Swift, but in terms of high-speed ride quality, the Grand i10 Nios scores a little bit better. Low-speed ride quality, both are set on the firm side. This one is slightly more firm than the Swift suspension. So at low speeds, again, you will find some of the shocks creeping into the cabin, but as speeds build up, the ride quality on the Grand i10 Nios is slightly better than the Swift. Well, in terms of handling, again, both the cars are pretty similar. There's not like a big difference between the handling characteristics of both these cars, but the Swift, of course, is the one that feels more livelier, especially around corners. If you're attacking corners, well, Swift is the car you want to be in if you want to have fun. Now, it's not that the Grand i10 Nios is not comfortable going around corners. the Grand i10 Nios 2, despite its smaller wheels and well, slimmer rubber, can take on corners pretty well. But yes, it is the Swift that simply is much more better around corners. In terms of straight line stability, again, well, even in the Grand i10 Nios, just like the Swift, there's no reason to complain at highway speeds. The car is stable, even if you're braking from high speeds, the car comes to a stop without any drama at all. Of course, it's got ABS, EBD, so that helps the cause of safety. So with all the features, the positives and the negatives of these two cars discussed, it is time for a conclusion. But before that, let's discuss which car suits what kind of a buyer profile better. Well, if you're out in the market looking for a sporty hatchback with a good set of features and space, well then it is the Swift that you should go in for. But if on the other hand you are someone who's looking for a modern, a very practical car with the segment best features and of course good drivability and very nice day-to-day usage, well, in that terms, it is the Grand i10 Nios that has a slight advantage. Now, in terms of price, again, Hyundai has played it smart. So if you look at the price table here on the screens, you can see that right from the lowest variant to the top variant, the Grand i10 Nios is priced more competitively than the Swift. Even for these two variants, the Grand i10 Nios comes for a lesser price with more features. And of course, you also get a better warranty with the Hyundai Grand i10 Nios.
So while the Hyundai Grand i10 Nios does lose out to the Maruti Suzuki Swift in some areas, it does win in the more critical ones, and hence it is our winner of the shootout today.
Hey, कभी-कभी जीतने के लिए कुछ हारना पड़ता है और हार के जीतने वाले को ही बाजीगर कहते हैं.